For this episode, Chris built a deck that is elderly ridiculous.
And I'm just wondering if Sir Mix-a-Lot built this deck if he would have put so many stacks pieces in. Okay.
Nice.
Sir Mix-a-Lot. Big butts.
Oh, yeah.
Cannot lie.
Oh. That's actually hilarious, but I didn't laugh. My name's Taylor.
Hi, I'm Chris, and welcome to episode 14 of Commander Roll Reversal.
4 and 1. We consulted the tapes, and this should actually reflect 14 and not 41. You're welcome.
Commander Roll Reversal, we are a YouTube channel that we build decks, we swap them, we play those decks, and we talk about it on the internet.
That's you, the internet. So please remember to like, subscribe, and, share the video. If you don't, that's cool, awesome. But we're going to ask. So
yeah, we appreciate that.
Thanks. No ultimatums this time.
We will include the links on Moxfield to the deck list in the description below, and we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about brewing experience and some of the thoughts that went into how to build a deck. What were the synergies and how did we go about creating it?
I would love to hear about the deck that you built, Chris.
Oh, thank
and
you.
Why you built it the way that you did.
Too kind. Let's jump in. Duke Ulder Ravengard. A 4, a red and a white for a legendary creature, human noble soldier. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and myriad until the end of turn. Myriad is whenever it attacks for each opponent other than the defending player, you may create a token that's a copy of that creature that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. Then exile the tokens at the end of combat. Duke Ulder Ravengard is a 5/5. So when I built this deck, I was thinking about two things mainly. I wanted to have creatures with powerful enter the battlefield effects, and I wanted to have ways of advantaging your own combats or disadvantaging your opponent's ability to interact with your combats. So with this list, we ended up with 30 creatures, including the commander, Duke Ulder Ravengard. 21 of those creatures have enter the battlefield effects or care about enter the battlefield effects. And then there was at least one non-creature that cared about at least 3 non-creatures that care about enter the battlefield effects. There were also 10 creatures that care about attacking and at least 1 non-creature that cared about attacking. I also included 6 ways to disadvantage combat for your opponents and 6 ways to protect your own board. This is a deck that cares about keeping your creatures around long enough to get to the attack step, so we wanted to be able to protect that. And then the other cards that made the cut were 10 targeted removal spells, 2 board wipes. There were 13 ways to ramp in this deck. I don't know how it got that high, but here we are. And 7 sources of card advantage. So targeted removal was higher in this deck because I wanted to ensure that we weren't always wiping the board. We wanted to keep our board intact while still being able to pick off the relevant threats from the other players. But sometimes you just need to wipe the board, so there were a couple of them in there. 7 sources of card advantage. I'm not sure if there were any cards in the deck that just say draw X cards, but there were ways to advantage, get additional cards or additional effects. Is Myriad a card advantage? Like you're getting additional cards on the table.
And at least one card said draw on it. So yeah. We'll probably get to that point. But
awesome. Yeah, I think we'll probably talk a little bit more in detail with the gameplay aspect. But Taylor, that's what I was aiming for when I built the deck. How did it come through for you?
It's funny that you said all of that because that's exactly how it translated in the gameplay experience. So, just jumping straight into the cards that really worked for me when I was piloting this deck. The first one was Skyclave Apparition. What a great Myriad target, first of all. And by that, I mean an evil one. So Skyclave Apparition is a 1 generic white creature core spirit. When Skyclave Apparition enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-land, non-token permanent you don't control with mana value 4 or less. When Skyclave Apparition leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner creates an XX blue illusion creature token where X is the mana value of the exiled card. Skyclave Apparition is a 2 too. So just hearing you list off that you had targeted removal, how many were there?
There were 10 targeted removal. That was one of them.
I have to imagine that this was one of them.
Yeah, that was a big one.
I joke that this is the little brother to Solitude, who is also in the deck. Solitude being the one that you can just enter the battlefield, exile up to one other target creature, and then that controller gains life equal to its power. Mm-hmm. And then there was also the honorable mention, Cather Commander.
Yeah.
Cather Commando.
Commando. Yep.
And that one, I like that as well, because that being where you can pay 1, sacrifice it, and then destroy target artifact or enchantment, where that was just an activated ability. Yeah, you can use that before it gets exiled.
Before the end of combat. Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. So I definitely saw what you were doing with kind of the suite of removal there, targeted removal. It was really cool and actually very powerful because it's repeatable so long as those key pieces survive. They're tokens you don't care about. They're exiled at the end of combat per the rules of Myriad. But I love this. I feel like the Skyclave Apparition, the only thing you need to be cognizant of is the fact that they are immediately getting those illusion tokens.
That's fair.
So depending on how greedy you get with what you are deciding to exile on your opponent's boards, if they're all 4/4s, just be prepared for, or 4 mana value.
You might get the crackback.
They won't be summoning sick at that point. So but I enjoyed this. This is just one of my favorite white cards. Really powerful, printed in Zendikar Rising.
That's right. Yeah, it's a 3-drop, and it is it's only has 2 power too, which is also sometimes relevant.
Tutorable.
By
things that care about that.
Yeah.
So really liked what you were going for with that. Another really cool Myriad target that you included was Vengeful Ancestor, which is 2 red for a creature spirit dragon with flying. Whenever Vengeful Ancestor enters the battlefield or attacks, goad target creature. Goad being until your next turn, that creature attacks each combat if able and attacks a player other than you if able. Whenever a goaded creature attacks, it deals 1 damage to its controller. That kind of just felt like gravy at this point. But
it is,
Vengeful Ancestor is a 3/4.
Is it cheating if I included that in both cares about ETB and cares about attacking?
It is, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah. Nice.
No, it did seem like there was a little bit of a goad sub-theme in there. I also saw that you had Disrupt Decorum in the deck as well.
Oh, that's right. It also falls under Wasted Disadvantage.
Combat. That was so nebulous. I was wondering if those would kind of end up in multiple categories, but I appreciated that because it's a powerful effect. I mean, a lot of the benefit from this commander and piloting Duke is that you need to have the targeted creature that you're giving Myriad attack. So anything that makes it easier for that body to get through without needing to worry about like dying from a blocker.
That's right.
Is awesome. So if they all swung at someone else, then shields are down.
Yeah. And you only need to have 1 open opponent, really, for your actual creature card to attack. The Myriad ones, they're gonna die anyway, right? So, So just having enough of that disruption to get the board moving. Yeah.
I mean, it was awesome. I loved Goad, and it's cool. It did end up becoming relevant enough too, where it would have become relevant enough. I think I had goaded in 1 turn like 5 different creatures. And then someone just board wiped, so I didn't get the 1 damage, but it was awesome.
There's always a board wipe.
There's always a board wipe. There's also always rumors that gather. Namely by Rumor Gatherer, which is 1 white, another coveted 3 spot for the white creatures. Rumor Gatherer is a creature, elf, wizard with alliance, which I like to refer to as creature landfall. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card instead. Rumor Gatherer is a 2/1. So not necessarily something that I would think would be the target of Myriad, but more specifically is going to give you additional value from the Myriad triggers, because those tokens enter the battlefield. I think every time I had a Myriad trigger while this was out, I got the scry, I got a card draw, and then I got at least 3 more instances of scry before the end of the turn. This was my first time piloting this card. It was bomb.
It's really cool when you can have multiple creatures entering every turn, right? That's the sweet spot for this card.
I feel like it's easy to kind of look at it and see draw only happens once per turn and be like, oh, lame.
Yep.
But one, I appreciate that they didn't just say that you can only draw once per turn. They at least made it a little less feels bad with that. And two, the scry is really powerful. I wouldn't undervalue that.
Yeah, you get to scry a bad card to the bottom and then draw the next card and then look at the next one and say, oh, that's also a bad card, but not an ideal card for this situation. I'm going to put that on the bottom too.
I mean, I'd rather have scry when the draw would have been dead.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, really solid
Good
include
design.
with this. Yeah, this was and this was from New Capenna.
It was, pretty new card. Yep.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, we're already probably 2 sets on by the time this video comes out.
Oh yeah, this is old news. It's old New Capenna at this point. But I feel like it also worked really well, not just with the myriad triggers, because you also had blink support. It seemed like you had the eerie interludes, the Felidar Guardian, you had the teleportation circle, like all things that care about flickering your creatures. That's just more ETB triggers for this bad boy.
Yes, totally.
Or girl or elf
wizard. In this case. Yeah, that's the other thing that you have all these creatures, like, okay, so you're going for the myriad thing, but you also are just playing a lot of creatures that have ETBs, so why not play them again?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep,
it's a 2-for. 3-for, 4-for. No, it's actually 2 in a red. It's Cursed Mirror, which is an artifact with tap and add red. And also the text, as Cursed Mirror enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn, except it has haste.
Yeah.
I just, in general, really love the design space that Wizards has been exploring with their 3-mana rocks.
Yes, totally.
Because they kind of know that 3-mana rocks, people are going to kind of turn their noses up, especially as the format itself has continued to evolve and do a faster pace. For every 3-mana rock, you've got your Soul Ring, your Arcane Signet, your Liquid Metal Torque. I mean, those are all easier to justify.
Yeah.
But in this deck, where it gives you another potential myriad target, that seems good. That seems worth it.
Yeah. A 3-mana rock really has to do something powerful. Like, there has to be enough of a reason, and I don't think that sacrificing a command sphere to draw a card is necessarily enough anymore. I don't think they put them in the last precon.
The last precons? Oh, I want to check that.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a good way to gauge the evolution of precons.
The land bases are getting better, and the mana rocks, well, anyway.
No, yeah. Still including Guildgate.
Yeah.
Check last episode.
Yeah, and I think that they've definitely done that. I think that Cursed Mirror is, it only taps for red, but hey, in a 2-color deck, that's pretty good. And you get to do the thing that your deck's trying to do anyway. If it's creature focused, I think that, this is a good call.
It kind of feels like a similar power level, to me at least, to like the blue equivalent 3-mana rock, which my favorite of those would be Midnight Clock from Throne of Eldraine. I mean, that one is a little weaker because you need to have the mana to pump into it for the wheel effect, or it just needs to stick around for 3 turn cycles of an entire 4-player pod.
Of a 4-player pod. It is faster in 4 players.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Where this is just that one-time benefit that is a little bit splashier, but it feels like a similar, like, equally powerful type of effect. So, just a fun thing. I like rocks. I'm a rock collector. No, I'm not. That's weird. Anyway, what do rocks make? Strongholds. When you use the rocks to build the strongholds.
That's a good metaphor.
And what happens when strongholds have slayers in them? You have a slayer stronghold as a land. This is the content you come here for. Slayer Stronghold is a land, tap, add colorless, but we really care about the last bit of it. Pay red and a white, tap, target creature gets +2/+0, gains vigilance and haste until end of turn. I would have been happy if this was just a haste enabler, because in order to target a creature with Duke's ability, it needs to be attacking for the myriad.
But Duke actually gives haste.
Oh, it does.
As well.
Oh, so it's redundancy.
It's redundant, yeah.
So Duke was underpowered because he didn't have haste himself, so why not just give him haste and vigilance?
Yeah, he's a 5/5, can get in there.
Oh, now he's a 7/5.
Oh, now he's a 7/5, yeah. That's only
3 swings?
3 swings, baby.
Yeah, this was just a really solid utility land include. I think it made sense. I think you had another one in there that gave, other keywords, but this one, I just really like any land that gives haste because it's a land slot and you don't need to give, take up that slot for like a Swiftfoot Boots or something.
Sure.
Like, it's still a colorless land if you need it.
Right, yeah, and you can you can just have that effect on the land slot. And you might not have your commander out either, giving your creature haste, so maybe you want to sink your mana into that.
It's just really solid include, dude. Nice. And I think it kind of rounded out at least some of the highlighted cards from the games that we played. I really enjoyed those, and I think they aligned pretty well with the philosophy that you were going for. Cool. So nice job, dude.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
This is entirely too wholesome. I can't wait until we get into degenerate combos.
Yeah, we'll get there. Don't worry.
Oh, Stay tuned. It's cleverly segueing into the next deck that was built.
The next deck that you built for me, which I guess you would want to talk about.
I should, yeah. Oh, yeah. I will talk about that. That creature was Rasaad in Bashir. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. 2 and a white for a legendary creature, Human Monk. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Whenever Rasaad in Bashir attacks, if you have the initiative, double the toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. He also has choose a background. A background can be your second commander, the partner mechanic from the new Baldur's Gate Commander Legends set. Rasaad is a 0/3. I chose to have him partnered with Folk Hero, which is 1 and a white legendary enchantment background that says commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell that shares a creature type with this creature, draw a card. The ability triggers only once each turn.
New outline, who does?
New outline. No, Chris's outline. I try not to spoil myself.
So you built this deck for me. It was super fun to play, but what was the philosophy going into putting it together?
Big booty stacks, baby.
Sir Mix-a-Lot would be proud.
He would, and now we understand the opening bit. It's all coming together. No, seriously, I did actually envision this initially when I was building the deck as... Well, one, I really liked a new mono white commander to kind of build around. I know that the background aspect really opens it up to be more than a mono colored commander, but white's just my favorite color, and I wanted to see what we could do. So I was kind of using it as a framework for Stacks Good stuff. Nice. But as I was building out the deck, it became kind of quickly apparent that it could be more than that. Mm-hmm. So the initial idea was play those Stacks pieces. I mean, you had Teferi's Puzzle Box, the Ubamax, Draenith Magistrate, just lock out everybody from playing the game in 3 easy steps. And then the idea would be kind of stall out, wait for an opportunity to win with Solemnity and Dark Depths, either just swinging with an immediate 20/20 flying indestructible avatar, Merit Large, or going for an instant win with Celestial Convergence because no counters are on it. So
you built a combo deck.
I did build a combo deck.
Mono white combo.
Yeah, I've outed myself though. So growth, giant growth, not in this color.
Stay tuned for other ways to do that.
I think what I ended up finding is that I ultimately pared down the stacks, if you could believe it or not, and went for more of like a mid-range combo or attacking deck, Voltron deck, because it turns out that a lot of really powerful toughness boosters are very undercosted for what they do when your commander deals damage as though toughness was power.
They're just giving toughness. That's not that powerful.
Yeah. Or is it?
Or is it?
So that was the idea. Either you win by stalling out people, or you swing when they're not expecting it, because it's a 0/3. Yeah. And I don't expect a 0/3 to be able to, kill me in 2 turns.
Yeah.
So, some stats of note, there were 13 ways to disadvantage combat for my opponents, 15 ways to protect the board, and then 3 board wipes, 7 ways to ramp, only 3 board wipes. See, I'm a generous player. Yes. And then 10 sources of card advantage. Card advantage, of course, being, draw historically, but scry, I would consider card advantage as well.
For scrying enough, yeah.
Yeah, in the case of Rumor Gatherer, for example, I think that would fall in that category. Mm-hmm. But of note, I said 21 cards providing card advantage if counting the 11 relevant creature types for Folk Hero.
Right. Folk Hero is a great tribal payoff for white card draw.
Yeah, so I had at least 11 humans or monks.
Nice.
And then the stats that people really care about, there were 24 stacks pieces, 5 counter spells, 5
in mono white,
and 4 ways to gain the initiative, which we'll talk about that. Cool. That did end up being kind of like a pseudo finisher if you could pull it off.
Yeah, part of the commander's ability is if you have the initiative, double the toughness of each creature you control.
Which Pretty good.
Yeah, makes your commander kind of like a 6/6.
Yes, a 6/6, bare minimum.
Yeah.
He doesn't stay a 6/6, but I'll be curious to hear if that kind of aligns with the philosophy I had going for it based off of your highlighted cards.
Absolutely. I think that you definitely hit the nail on the head. I think that it really was. It seemed like there, even though Rasaad can give his ability to any creature you control, it did seem Voltron-y.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that was intentional because it wasn't that hard to get to 21 toughness.
No, it was not.
But there were some other really, really good white, just mono white cards that I wanted to highlight as well that were really good, like support cards too.
Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of both. I'm going to start with the support card. So the first one I wanted to talk about is Keeper of the Accord. 3 and a white for a creature human soldier. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a basic plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Keeper of the Accord is 3/4. So if you've only got Keeper of the Accord and Rasaad in play, that's 2 creatures. So odds are your opponent's probably going to have more than 2 creatures. It definitely puts in work. This was the first time I played this card, and we'll talk a bit more in detail, but it really puts in work. It's really, really good.
I was so happy to see that because it's the first time I've included it in a deck. I know it got a lot of buzz around Commander Legends preview season because it was in the original set.
That's right.
But what always kind of put me off from it was that it was a 4-drop.
Yeah.
Like, that's not insignificant.
No, it's like a mid-game play.
Right.
But if you've just been getting your commander out and getting the background out, maybe swinging, with just your commander, like it comes down on turn 4 or 3.
And then you draw a card and you had Folk Hero.
Yeah,
good
that's
point.
true. Yep. Replaces itself with Folk Hero. Yeah. So
good.
Really good in this deck for sure.
That's awesome.
There was another really good human in the deck. There were a few of them, but this one is actually probably I'm going to say it's my favorite legendary white creature.
Oh.
Mangara the Diplomat.
Nice.
3 and a white for a legendary creature human cleric with lifelink. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. 2/4. So the key to commander, especially mid to late game, is casting more than 1 spell per turn.
So I've learned over the course of this exercise.
And when your opponents are doing that successfully, you're drawing a card on every one of your opponent's turns, right? Like Mangara just sits there and just gets you card advantage. And in this case, it's kind of like a 4/4 with lifelink too. So that's better than a 2/4 for sure.
It was kind of unintentional, but the humans that I did include all had more toughness, I think.
Yeah. I didn't know if that was intentional. I'm like, these are great cards, but they also have that stapled on.
Nice. Lifelink and card draw. And he was before, or maybe he was would you say the beginning of the push for white equity in Commander?
I think so. Right at the beginning. It was Core 21, I think, right?
Yeah.
So that seems right.
Set.
Yeah, great set. Yeah.
And paying off on the bit, he's definitely been doing squats because he's a 4/4.
The next card I want to talk about is Aegis of the Heavens. Talk about a combat trick. Aegis of the Heavens is 1 and a white for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+7 until end of turn. So you're telling me you're getting 7 attack toughness.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. For 2 mana, it's so undercosted. What would the rate be if it was just +7?
Right. It would have to be. We talked about Giant Growth, right? Is that 1 mana or 2 mana?
I think that's 2 mana.
So you get +3/+3, right?
Yeah.
So scale that to 7. You're going to be paying at least twice as much mana.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's 2, so 4.
So at least. 4 or 5
I'd rather
probably.
just pay 2 and deal damage with my butt.
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere.
Consult a physician first, please.
So that would be 10 power on the commander just by itself, right?
Yeah. So my question would be, do you see the 0/3 commander swinging at you, and do you decide not to block because you're not expecting it to be 10 commander damage?
Right. Could be. Because you're thinking all that open mana, it could be a combat trick, but how bad could it really be?
A Defiant Strike.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
+1, draw a card. Or something, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it's much worse than that. Yeah. There's another more permanent way to give a similar effect. This one, I laughed when I drew this card. This one's Stone Skin. 2 and a white for an enchantment aura with flash. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +0/+10. Amazing. Yeah, so this one, it enchants your commander, so they have to deal with that. That's a problem. That is a 13/13 commander.
And that's 3 mana for that.
For 3 mana at instant speed. Yeah. Yep.
So if you have 5 mana and no one's blocking, someone's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have the Aegis of the Heavens as well.
Totally. Yep. 5 mana. That's you're knocking a player out. You had a few of these effects too, which I think is really important. If if you are building mono white, this is like the best effect that you can get for this commander if you're doing like Voltron mono white. So another one that you included, and this is the one that comboed with Stone Skin. In my case, we'll talk more about it. But Great Defender. It's an old card.
Legends.
From Legends, right? Yeah, it goes way back. Great Defender is 1 white mana. For an instant, target creature gets +0/+X until the end of turn, where X is its mana value. So 1 mana +3 toughness for your commander.
Seems good.
Nice. Yeah. So, that's where if you've got the initiative, which once you get the initiative, maybe, there's multiple ways to do that. You've got Stone Skin, you've got Great Defender. That's just a 1-hit kill.
Oh, yeah.
Easily, right?
I love it.
Out of nowhere, at instant speed.
Yeah. This isn't even the stacks.
This is just the attacks.
Yeah. Oh, nice rhyme.
All right.
We'll do time.
So those were my 5. I did want to put up an honorable mention here, simply because we got a reprint. Vidalcan Orrery was in the deck. Vidalcan Orrery is 4 generic mana for an artifact. You may cast spells as though they had flash.
Yep.
That's it. It can go in every deck, make all your spells flash. It's a 4 mana do nothing artifact, but once you're set up with it, it's pretty good. And it just got a reprint, so if you're going to pick it up, I would say that now's the time to do it.
Right. And I think the only reason, because it is a 4 mana do nothing, the only reason I justified putting it in this deck was because I wanted to get the most value I could out of the Folk Hero. Because it's once per turn, so
cool.
If you just keep one of your creatures that are relevant to that back on another turn, you flash in a blocker or whatever, and then you draw a card.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, being able to play at instant speed gives you a lot more information than playing at sorcery speed.
That is true.
Yep. It actually, I've heard this on other channels and just in general, it changes the turn order, right? You actually get moved over a seat because you're now playing before the player that was playing before you.
Much to their chagrin.
Yeah, kind of in a roundabout way. But yeah, Vidalcan Orrery, it is maybe almost affordable at this point.
Who knows?
So
maybe because it got a list reprint too.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah, so they've reprinted it a couple times
good.
Now.
It's getting there.
Yeah, all it took was the Command Zone championing it.
That was
for
years
years.
ago. Yeah, no
Thanks,
kidding.
Wizards. Thanks, Command Zone.
Yeah, no, really, thank you.
Yeah.
So what about some questionable cards? Were there any cards in the deck that you wanted to ask me about?
I wanted to say all of them, but I used that joke last week, so I'll just ask you about Bosri's Lieutenant instead. Okay.
Nice one.
Bosri's Lieutenant, 3 and a white for a creature, human knight with vigilance, protection from multicolored, and when Bosri's Lieutenant enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever Bosri's Lieutenant or another creature you control dies, if it had a +1/+1 counter on it, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. Bosri's a 3/4.
Wait, did you say protection from multicolored?
I did.
Oh, no. Yeah, mistakes.
We did encounter that, I think, during our game.
Yeah. Seems like such a cool effect, right? You've got Bashir's Lieutenant out, and you're making Myriad, and you're stacking the counters however you want to stack them, and then when your creatures die in combat or whatever, you get tokens, and it seems so cool, but guess what? You can't actually target Bashir's Lieutenant with Duke's ability.
It's such a seemingly innocuous effect, but because they've printed this also on Stonecoil Serpent, right? But it ends up being such a house, especially in Commander, because most people aren't just sticking to one color.
That's right.
Yeah, there's usually a lot of multicolor shenanigans happening.
And a lot of the really good removal, right? Anguish Unmaking, Assassin's Trophy, it doesn't kill Stonecoil Serpent. I mean, it's a big trampling, however big you want it to be, and you also can't really, and you can't block it sometimes either. With your commander, you can't block it.
If you cast Assassin's Trophy on Bosri's Lieutenant, it doesn't kill it, do I still get to get
Yeah, you
land?
get to ramp. It's a separate clause.
Group hug. Participation trophy is what I'm renaming that one.
Although it has protection, so it can't even be targeted. So I think it's just an illegal target. Actually, it just fizzles.
Well, forget about that trophy.
Yeah, no, never mind. I could be wrong. Let us know. I'm not a judge, but I do my best.
No,
good question, though. I think that Monster's Lieutenant is a really, really cool card, just not in this particular deck. Unfortunately, that's a non-bow.
I saw that you had some things that cared about +1/+1s counter in the deck, like Cathar's Crusade was in there. So
imagine those myriad tokens coming down and then pumping your whole team. Okay. Getting ahead.
Yikes. And then wiping it, and then you get 2/2s. That
also trigger Cathar's Crusades.
Anyway, the next card. Oh my gosh, Chris. Sundial of the Infinite. 2 generic, artifact, pay 1, tap, end the turn, activate only during your turn, exile all spells and abilities from the stack, discard down to your maximum hand size, damage wears off in this turn, and until end of turn effects end. That's what happens when you end the turn. I've wanted to use this in the past. I've been burned because you have to really pay attention to the language on what you're trying to.
Oh no!
What you're trying to keep around. So, I guess the question isn't necessarily to point out that this doesn't work. But I'm curious. Did you include it because this will actually keep your myriad tokens?
But it doesn't.
It doesn't?
That's the thing. That was the goal. We did it. I did it this time.
Yeah.
Exile the tokens at the end. At end of combat.
And ending the turn would end combat.
So the thinking was you're going to end the turn early. Like do everything in your first main phase. You're planning to end the turn before like the end of combat, and you get to keep your tokens. But I think you only get to keep them until the end of the next player's combat. And then they get exiled because I wonder about that one. I think it's the same situation that we had with Delina Wild Mage back in episode 4.
4?
Yeah.
Delina and Nin.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
Needs more views.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it is exile the tokens at end of combat. So I think that means that it's just like at the end of the next combat they would go away.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Whoops.
Interesting. It would have been cool if it worked. Because, why wouldn't you want to keep the myriad tokens?
Right. They get exiled. It was between that and sack outlets. Because I'm like, they get exiled, so you got to get some type of value out of them.
Well, now you got the sack outlet.
Okay. Now, get the sack outlet in there instead.
Oh, yeah. That would have been so good. Especially because if you're doing the myriad targets, like a lot of your creatures had ETBs or they like benefited from like connecting with combat damage or whatnot. But like I noticed you also had Panharmonicon. Right. So like if you're exponentially getting more of those tokens and doubling up on those triggers because you're keeping them around, that would have been really cool, especially in a world where Karn Silver Golem, a 5-mana legendary artifact creature golem, reading whenever Karn Silver Golem blocks or becomes blocked, it gets -4/+4 until end of turn. Pay 1, target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness each equal to its mana value until end of turn. Karn Silver Golem is a 4/4. If you were Was he staring at me like that the entire time?
The card image would be up, so they would.
Okay. Well, now
you'll
I'll
never
just
know.
have both. So you're just staring at Karn Silver Golem.
Yeah. I'll just stare longingly at him. Not a very good myriad target, Karn Silver Golem.
No, but if you were able to make that work the way that we were hoping it would, you could like myriad like your mana rocks or something, and then or you could animate your your mana rocks
and then give them myriad
when they're and then have more mana rocks.
Wow.
It's unconventional ramp, but alas, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Huh. Well, you could still do it and then just spend all your mana before changing phases, right? At the beginning of combat, myriad.
Or they tapped and attacking. Yeah, so it would only make sense if they stick around and you can untap.
Yep. Shenanigans.
Oh. Alas, Karn.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy. didn't quite make it.
Yeah, but those were my questionable cards, Chris. What do you have for me?
I got a couple questions for you.
Okay.
First of all, why would anybody include... No, I'm kidding.
Okay. No, you're not.
The stacks, baby. Let's talk about Damping Sphere. 2 mana for an artifact. If a land tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces colorless mana instead of any other type and amount. And then each spell a player casts costs 1 generic mana more to cast for each other spell that player casts this turn.
This is my new favorite stacks card.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's actually, I mean...
So what was the question?
Well, yeah, what's the question here? Why not play Damping Sphere? You know, like the first ability probably comes up sometimes, like bounce lands.
I just want to hose a Nyx Bloom Ancient.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's true.
You can only make colorless mana.
And only one of them. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, Gaia's Cradle is like one of the most expensive lands you can buy. No, it doesn't work.
It's just a piece of paper.
But actually the other part is very effective.
Yeah.
Especially against like your Storm decks and anything that's, again, double spelling. The advantage of playing mid to late game in Commanders when you can play 2 or 3 spells in a turn, and now you may not be able to because now you're paying 1 mana and then 2 mana for the third spell. Like you run out of mana pretty fast.
I think it would generically make sense to be a meta call if you are in a pod that runs like a lot of the Aetherflux Storm payoffs type things, because then that makes much more difficult to do.
Sure.
But I think for me it made sense because it's what's the word? Symmetrical, right? So it still affects me as well.
Yep.
I think it makes sense to run that if you are a stack that is really just trying to stall people out, so you're not really hurting from it.
Right. If your goal is not to do double spells, but to play 1 impactful spell every turn, this is the card for you. You know, it makes cards like Bolus's Citadel worse too, right? Because you pay all the life and 1 mana, right?
Oh, yeah. And we found out it hoses... we were playing in a pod against Alondo. And that ability allows you to cast the spell for free once all the time counters are removed.
Not anymore.
Nope. Free. We played it against an Averna.
Yes. Oh, gosh.
Hope you're not cascading.
Yeah.
It's a lot stronger than you would anticipate for an uncommon.
It's relevant. I mean, don't put this card in your deck if you want to keep your friends. But
I missed that memo.
No, we're still friends. Yeah. It's good. Well, Taylor, you mentioned this card earlier in the episode, and I think you hinted at the combo, but it'd be cool to talk more in depth about it, especially since I didn't know you were going to bring it up. But I'm glad you did. Celestial Convergence. Celestial Convergence is 2 a white and a white for an enchantment. Celestial Convergence enters the battlefield with 7 omen counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an omen counter from Celestial Convergence. If there are no omen counters on Celestial Convergence, the player with the highest life total wins the game. If 2 or more players are tied for the highest life total, the game is a draw. So it's 4 mana, and you have to remove 7 omen counters. So we're talking like turn 11 or 12. We're trying to keep the highest life total.
Yeah, so I mean, just without any kind of shenanigans, it's a pretty weak effect, I would say. It doesn't really scale well. It's slow. It's going to get removed, and it's going to get removed like a turn before it goes off. So like it's telegraphed in that way, right? So that's why I included it as a combo with Solemnity, because if you are running Solemnity, which famously or infamously, depending on who you ask, does not allow you to put counters on artifacts, lands, creatures, or enchantments, or players too. Then it just comes in, and then that trigger, because it's a state-based action, it will immediately look to see if it has any omen counters on it, and then if there are none, then it will look to see who has the highest life, and then you just win.
So you just got your casual Solemnity out there, and it's turn 4, and everybody else has played a shock land.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, it's 7 mana for the 2.
Oh, for the 2 for the combo. So turn 3 Solemnity, turn 4 Celestial Convergence, and you win the game.
As long as people did the shock land, like you said. And admittedly, there is not a huge amount of life gain in the deck, but I figured because the stacks pieces that I built into it, like the Ghostly Prison effects and things like that are not necessarily going to allow people to interact with me as easily. I wasn't too worried about it. Plus, you can always just play a Chroma's Will, get the life, and then you win.
If you didn't win from a Chroma's Will.
Yeah, then win with the highest life total. Or just force a draw. You want a scoop?
Yeah.
Do it in style.
It is. This is a more stylish one. What is that other card? Divine...
not Divine Intervention. Well, Divine Intervention, I think, is the one that's just the game ends in a draw. Yeah. There's no you win.
Right. It's not possible to win with that card. At least it's possible to win with Celestial Convergence.
Unless your idea of a win condition is very different from everybody else that sat down at the table. Then you're winning. But
yeah. maybe talk about that first.
Yeah,
That's a rule zero conversation to be had.
Sure.
Well, those were the questionable cards that I had. Really cool combos. You built a mono-way combo deck. I'm just going to say it again. All right.
I did it.
I love it.
This is my personal deck. Can't wait to play it at the Thursday pod.
It's in paper, right?
It is in
oh,
paper.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay. Watch out.
No wonder he can't make the next 3 Thursdays.
I got to preemptively call out.
Okay.
What about some suggestions? Best part of the episode.
This is my favorite part of the show.
Same.
Yeah. Suggestions for you, for Duke.
Duke, what's you got for Duke?
Duke, there it is.
Put your Dukes up.
I mean, this could have. I'm gonna preface this by saying this.
He is a Duke, though. By the way.
Yeah, Ravengard.
Oh, yes. He's a Duke. He's from D&D lore. He started at, it's one of those, traditional fantasy stories where he started as, not well off as a child, and then he joined the military, and then he just proved himself through his prowess and his combat ability, and eventually worked his way up the ranks, and then through as a reward for all of his martial efforts, he was granted a dukedom. Is that what it's called?
The American Dream.
Yeah. Work hard, kids.
Yeah, thank you. And you too will earn a dukedom. Now, this suggestion I will preface by saying that this could have been a personal choice not to include it. Okay. And that's fine. Yeah. But to me, Anointed Procession just seems like the play for this. Myriad creates tokens. Why not make more of those tokens? Wow. So, Anointed Procession, 3 and a white for an enchantment. If an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead.
Seems really good. What happens to those tokens, though? Because they're not myriad tokens, so they're not attacking, right?
Unless it's creating exact copies of the token that entered. So would it be
So the creature has myriad.
Yeah.
And that creature is creating the myriad tokens, and then Anointed Procession is creating additional tokens. So I think the additional tokens would
get to stay? Yeah.
Oh.
Or would they get...
Oh. They would get to stay, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be attacking. They would just be additional tokens, and they wouldn't even be tapped because that's part of the myriad effect, I think.
This one I will ask a judge for.
Yeah.
If you're in the comments out there or not, I'll track you down.
Yeah.
I have a question, please.
Please help us with this.
It would be really cool. I was suggesting it, just assuming that it wouldn't, right? Because it still seems like that's if they are created as additional tapped and attacking myriad tokens, that's just extra damage.
Even so,
extra ETBs,
right?
Two extra Skyclave apparitions.
Oh gosh, that's a board wipe. That's a one-sided board wipe at some point. But yeah, either way, it is a great suggestion. That is definitely one of those decks where you want to be able to create additional tokens. That's so perfect. I'm glad that you thought of that one.
And if nothing else, you run a Smothering Tide, so why not make double the treasures? Moving on. This one is a little bit of a deeper cut, right? And it's funny because you had mentioned toying with including a sack outlet.
Yeah. True.
Fanatical Devotion. 2 and a white enchantment. Sacrifice a creature. Regenerate target creature.
Okay.
So the next time permanent would be destroyed this turn, instead remove all damage marked on it and tap it. If it's an attacking or blocking creature, remove it from combat. So you've got the built-in sack trigger. It's free. So you sacrifice something. That way, if you're sacrificing or you make a myriad token and it's something that cares about dying, for example, you still get the death trigger. In this case, Solemn Simulacrum would be an example.
Sure.
And if you're swinging with your commander and you want to just keep it from dying, added protection. So you're just kind of doubling up on the value in that way.
That's really cool because you don't necessarily care if the creature that you're giving myriad even does combat damage either, right?
Yeah.
So you could regenerate that. You don't have to care as much about how you're attacking. You're just attacking, you're just making the tokens, and then you're sacrificing one of the tokens after you've already gotten the value to regenerate the one that you want to keep around.
And it's only 3 mana.
Wow. That is the sack outlet for this one.
Yeah.
Get Sundial of the Infinite out.
Out of there. Get Fanatical Devotion. And it's a pretty cheap card. I think it was like less than $2 for being such an old card.
Cool. That's budget.
So,
That's budget-ish.
Budget white. Yeah. Let's go.
Good one.
What is another way that we can protect our attackers in an Attacking Matters deck?
I don't know.
For 1 white, you can play Reconnaissance. Enchantment. It's a 0 activated ability, which just cracks me up. Remove target attacking creature you control from combat and untap it. So this would be the intention. you are choosing to give Myriad to something like your Skyclave Apparition. You're swinging with it. You don't want it to die because then that person gets their, whatever mana value illusion.
Yes.
And then you want to be able to, ideally, continue every combat for future turns.
Yeah.
Exiling people's boards.
Totally. You're not just swinging it into whatever.
So just remove it from combat.
Wow. I've seen this card used a lot in Voltron Commanders as like a pseudo-vigilance.
Yep.
And you could use it that way in this deck, maybe, in some situations. But it's also just a way to like, oh, I attack, I get the Myriad triggers. Now I'm going to remove my creature from combat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way. I've also seen it hilariously as it just hoses goad. If you are ever goaded, which is kind of funny because
right.
they have to attack.
That's
and
funny.
you just remove them from combat.
Okay, yes, I do attack. Okay, now I remove it. Yeah.
JK.
LOL.
Yeah. So this one's a little bit pricier, but it's just a 1 mana value. You drop this turn 1, then you play your folk hero. Oh, well, different deck, but you get the idea.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, just anything that gives you more protection on an attacking matter deck seems to make sense.
Yeah,
but
seems good.
Let's get to the juicy stuff. Let's
right.
get to some recommendations on mean cards to give Myriad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's start with Stigma Lasher. Stigma Lasher is red and a red for a creature elemental shaman with Wither. This deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters. Whenever Stigma Lasher deals damage to a player, that player can't gain life for the rest of the game.
Oh. Wicked.
Stigma Lasher is a 2/2. So also tutorable with either the Recruiter of the Guard or
nice.
Imperial Recruiter that you've also included in this deck.
Sure.
And ideally, if you're in a 4-person pod, you're swinging with 2 of these and 2 people. Ideally 3 people don't gain life for the rest of the game, but you're counting on at least one of those tokens to get through someone who wasn't prepared to have to block something that prevents them from gaining life.
Yeah, neat. That's I mean, life gain can be relevant, even if it's incidental life gain, right? It can add up, especially like we're talking about combat decks in particular. Like it's especially relevant, like not being able to do lifelink, not being able to do Aetherflux. Yeah. Right? That's huge. You could shut down the Storm player that way. I've never heard of that card. Is it? Do you get like an emblem? Is that how that works? I mean, it's not really like an emblem. It's like an
emblem-esque effect. So yeah, there's the player memory aspect of it. Right. But yeah, it's a very cool card.
Yeah. How do you remind your friends that they don't get to gain life? Because they're going to be real mad at you every time you remind them.
Oh yeah. I mean, the trick is to have Smothering Tithe out and that effect in place, so they have to choose one thing to get mad about.
Yeah, you can't multitask. You can't be mad at everything. No. Not at the same time, anyway.
I get what you're saying. I'm hearing it. Too mean. So let's dial it back a little bit.
Okay, just a smidge.
Go for an Aki Underminer instead, which is 3 and a red for a creature, goblin, rogue, shaman. Always fun to see those 3 creature types. Whenever Aki Underminer deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices a permanent.
Ooh.
It's a 1/1.
Ooh.
Also tutorable with all of the targets previously mentioned, and you're going to be making Myriad tokens. Man. Imagine that with an Anointed Procession too.
Oh no! You do have to do the combat damage, right?
That's you do have to get the combat damage through. Yep. So there's a little bit of a setup involved with that.
But with like the Disrupt Quorum, with the goat effects and everything, right? Yeah. That's the whole idea, is to be able to get your attacks through with this deck.
Yeah. So. You also had Frontier Warmonger, which would give him Menache.
Yep. So everything has it. Yep. Except creatures for. You control
have them Menache.
If they're already tapped and attacking, they don't get it because they're already in the combat.
Is that true?
Because they're not. Oh, no,
even though they're already attacking.
No, because that would be a whenever it attacks. Yeah. You're right. So it does work in this case. If it's attacking creatures, gain menace. Creatures that attack your opponents gain menace. It's right up here. I can't read it though. Shoot.
No, it's a green screen.
Yeah.
Oh, bunny fur. Nice. Yeah.
Cool,
so
though. Yeah. Those are some deep cuts, man. I've never heard of those.
Yeah, some spicy cuts. Yeah. So
nice.
Enjoy.
Spice is
or
nice.
Don't. I love me some Boros shenanigans. So
sweet.
But yeah, otherwise really cool deck, man.
Cool, man. Yeah. Great suggestions. Mind if I offer a few?
I do.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll skip that.
So Chris, what new and beautiful stacks pieces do you have to suggest for this deck?
Oh, I cannot wait to tell you about. Oh wait, no, there's no stacks on here.
Dang it, Chris.
Checks notes. I wanted to lean into the Voltron. I wanted to lean into the win conditions.
Fine. Oh, okay, because stacks isn't a win condition.
Yeah, well,
Scooping isn't a win condition. That's fine.
Yeah. Somebody just like gets up mad and leaves.
This probably just triggered someone watching this, too.
Whoops.
Sorry.
All right. Let's jump in. First card I wanted to suggest is, I'm going to say it, I think it's the Strictly Better Aegis of Heavens. Refuse to yield. 1 and a white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+7 until end of turn. Untap it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's straight out of Streets of New Capenna. It's a brand new card.
That power creep.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only does that same mana value get you additional power, which doesn't matter in this deck, but gives you
the
vigilance
untapping
too.
is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, power creep. That's it. That's all there is.
And it's a combat trick, instant speed. Yeah.
Right. I mean, but you could have both of them. It's
True.
like that redundancy, right? They both basically do the same thing, but having more than one way to do it might be a good way to go. But yeah, we're really just trying to get that one hit kill. That's the way to go with this.
Then just 2 other players left
who are real scared because you just took out one of the opponents.
How many of these instants could he possibly have?
Well,
at least 4.
And there might be another artifact that you could include called Endoskeleton. For 2 generic mana, it's an artifact. You may choose not to untap Endoskeleton during your untap step. And it has an activated ability, pay 2 and tap. Target creature gets +0/+3 for as long as Endoskeleton remains tapped.
Okay.
Yep. It's an old card.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, it's only 3 power, but 3 toughness, but 3 power.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, it's a 2 mana artifact, so it comes down early, and you only have to pay 2 and tap it once.
Okay. I was a little nervous when you started suggesting that because I don't know if you picked up on it, but in the deck list, there were very few. I tried to limit artifacts with activated abilities, and that was intentional because of Stony Silence. So any stacks that I included, I tried to prepare for in the deck building, but that is a low enough mana cost and a one-time activation where I think I could justify throwing that in there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I wasn't really considering Stony Silence. I was just sort of looking for this effect. But if you get it out on turn 2, then you can probably get it activated pretty soon.
Yeah.
I guess though, if your commander died, you'd have to pay 2 and tap it again. So,
but is Stony Silence going to stick around?
No, probably not.
I don't know. I would think that people would want to get rid of that because most people in Commander want to use their treasure tokens.
Brutal. All right. Well, here's another one that is an artifact, but this one doesn't. No, this does need to tap. Oh boy. Okay. Well, we've got Crenellated Wall. Crenellated Wall for 4 generic mana. Artifact, creature, wall, defender. It can't attack. Doesn't matter. Tap. Target creature gets +0/+4 until the end of turn. It's an 0/4.
Yeah.
So same overall mana cost as Endoskeleton for 1 additional toughness. But you'd have to tap it every turn.
Yeah, I mean, but you don't... I think Stony Silence is one of those pieces that could just as easily be cut for a more streamlined Voltron deck.
Right.
Like, I went for more of like a 50-50 split in my build.
So you have to be careful about which Voltron pieces you're using.
Yeah, but I mean, I saw that. Like, that's a great card that I had considered, adding before I decided to do the Stony Silence. So I think that still makes sense as an include.
Nice.
Yeah.
They're both like old cool cards. I went for like the deep cuts.
Mercadian Mask, I think, is that one. Mercadian Mask kind of feels like the original Ixalan,
right?
As far as Commander is concerned, because that probably actually predated Commander as an official
for
format.
Sure, yeah, almost
Dragon
certainly.
Highlander, but it's like wasn't really conceived to be or perceived to be the strongest set
I've
when
heard
it
that
initially
actually
came out. It's kind of
like
weird jank effects that no one really like. Oh, what do I do with this?
Right.
And then 20 years later, it's like, oh, these are all amazing.
Yeah. And now Ixalan was the same way, right? And now all those flip enchantments are some of them are real good.
Yeah.
I would definitely put them in depending on the deck. That's funny. Yeah,
just
cool,
an aside, but
cool comparison. Well, I decided that I thought this deck might need a secret commander. So we went with Zetalpa Primal.
Oh, come on.
It's a meme, but check it out. Zetalpa Primal Dawn is 6 a white and a white for a legendary creature elder dinosaur with flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, indestructible, and it's a 4/8.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, if it's an 8/8 with all those keywords, it's twice as good.
Yeah, and secret commanders that are legendary are like actually pretty like easy to get if you build for it with like cards like Search for Glory.
Nice.
Yeah, just tutor up your secret commander. It becomes less of a secret.
Right. That's right. You got to reveal it, but
get scared. Is that the segue into the gameplay experience?
Yeah. Let's go for it.
These were really fun games, dude.
Really fun. Yeah, super fun. A lot of attacks, a lot of combat matters, which is cool. That's a nice, fun way to play.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the initial, gameplay?
So, piloting Duke, I really enjoyed that he didn't need to be attacking to get the myriad value, right?
Yes.
Like, because I feel like anytime I see a 6-cost commander, especially in like colors that historically aren't the easiest to get to 6 mana at, like I don't want to cast my commander that has this really cool effect next turn and just have it die.
And then you attack with it, and it's like, oh wow,
yeah, or die before I even get to attack with
right.
it. Yeah.
Oh, right. With Duke, it doesn't have to stick around. It's the payoff, right? It's a 6-mana payoff for your Boros attacks deck.
Which was funny because I think in our game, at least the first one, you were kind of like questioning my line of play a little bit just because I cast it before I had any other creatures, and then I just kept swinging with them, and you're like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. I was like, I'll just swing with my 5/5.
Yeah, this commander damage is going to add up. But you had, I don't know, like you had all the ramp for some reason.
I got really lucky.
Yeah.
I only drew ramp in that game.
And it was like a turn 4 Ravengard, I think.
It was a turn 4 Ravengard, and I think the real takeaway from that should be that the final time I cast Ravengard that game, he was 12 mana.
Yeah, well, there was so much removal that game.
Yeah, there was. But I was able to get there, so thanks for building a ramp package.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 13. I wasn't going for 13, but then, I mean, is Dockside Extortionist a ramp card? I mean, it is, but like, I put it in there because it's a powerful ETB. Imagine having 3 Docksides or 4 Docksides on one turn, right?
Someone stop you.
Yeah, it's not good. I was also thinking, though, like, yes, probably the line of play is set up your board, get all of your initial ETBs, all of your attackers lined up and ready to go, then cast Duke, and then you can give Myriad. But what's cool is he also gives your creature haste.
Yes.
So even if you are playing Duke first, or you draw into a card that you're like, I really want it does give it haste.
Right.
Which I think haste and Myriad, it's a really good design. I think 6 mana value is fair for this card.
Yeah, and I think initially, before I had played with it, I was like, this seems overcosted. But, I think part of that is because Myriad is a really cool mechanic that had support a long time ago and is just now kind of like being exposed to the next generation of Commander players, it feels like. So,
and a lot of the Myriad creatures are kind of vanilla. They just have Myriad.
Yeah.
So being able to give creatures that aren't Myriad, that are not designed to have multiple copies of them out at once, right?
It's funny because it kind of feels like, not to keep drawing parallels between the Commander Legends 1 set and the Commander Legends 2 set. Commander Legends,
fair.
Yeah, okay.
They're Commander products.
So to keep drawing parallels between them. First one had kind of like an encore sub.
Oh, that's right.
Which was, it kind of felt like Myriad from your graveyard.
From the graveyard, that's cool.
And now for this one, I don't know if it was intentional or not. It's just straight Myriad.
Yeah, nice.
So I don't know. I was seeing the parallels and I enjoyed this. I like Myriad.
Yep.
Jury's or verdict is still out on whether or not you can pull off some of those token shenanigans.
Sure.
But I think regardless, the strength of the deck becomes what you're choosing to target with the Myriad trigger.
Absolutely. I think if you can pull off the token shenanigans, it's like overpowered. That's like real powerful.
That's like, I should be playing 12 mana.
But just the fact that you get the extra ETBs. And I would just like to revisit something I said. I meant the old Myriad creatures. A lot of them were just Myriad. Like,
really?
Yeah, because I was looking at, what creatures have Myriad? What can we put in? And the new ones that they printed in Commander Legends are great. Yeah, they're really, really cool. Really, really cool effects. But, but again, just being able to give your Skyclave Apparition or your Dockside Extortionist Myriad. Like, I don't care about swinging a 1/2 into nothing. I just got triple the treasures.
If I had targeted Darkside, sorry, slip, Dockside Extortionist with the Myriad triggers, is it like exponential? Do they see?
It's only enchantments and artifacts your opponents control.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, good. So it's thank God.
Yeah. So let's say they're like 6, you get 6, and then you get 3 more Dockside, so you would get 18 more. So you'd have 24 treasures in one turn. Is that good?
Yeah. It's only good if you decide to include an Academy Manufacturer. No.
And a Zorn.
Yeah, we've been there.
Yeah.
We've done that.
Wow.
Won't do it again.
Nope. You need to get out a calculator for some of that.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm just going to stop that segment right there and say he was really cool.
Yeah.
What about Rasaad, our good old monk boy?
Yeah, Rasaad. Yeah, he is really cool. Very, like, I love the flavor, right? 03, like, seems innocuous, seems very peaceful. Like, there's no power, right? Except for when you start swinging with him, and then you realize that he is powerful, and you start attaching.
Deceptively so.
Very much, yeah. So very flavorful. Like, that was a win doing that. And you built it in such a way, like... one thing that I learned, I tend to be more of a proactive player. So stacks, I think stacks decks are cool. I always like make, I tease you with like for playing stacks, but I do like some amount of stacks in a game. It makes it so that like the most powerful decks at the table have some hoops to jump through, right? You can't just combo off and win the game. Like, so it can balance the game out. So I do like it for that aspect, but I tend to be more of a proactive player. So it's a little bit different when I play a strategy like this.
Yeah.
But I remember at one point during the game saying, timing is everything with this deck, right?
Yeah.
You've got to wait for your moment, do your attacks, and then do your instant speed shenanigans, and then knock out a player, and like that's it.
Yeah.
Right? But you've got all your stacks set up so that, players are slowed down. They're not going to be able to like take you out in the meantime.
Yeah. That was kind of the goal, and I was wondering what it would be like to pilot that, because I know that Stacks obviously has a reputation for being kind of like, it doesn't win games. It just slows people down depending on how you've built it. Like, it's not as fun, which is why I did have the combat kind of like sub theme.
That's the thing.
But did you find that it was still enjoyable to pilot even with the stacks pieces?
Yeah, I think it was, because for me, it made me, that's kind of like this whole experiment, right? Like playing decks or strategies that we wouldn't normally. So it kind of like pushed me out of like my comfort zone, or like what I would traditionally do, which is cool and fun. But to your point, you did have a win condition. Voltron commander damage is a win condition, right?
Sure.
So it's not like you're just sitting there with a bunch of stacks pieces not doing anything. I'm sitting there with stacks pieces holding up my Aegis of the Heavens or my Stone Skin, my combo.
Great defender.
Yes. And then it's like, oh wait, no, that's 21 damage. Sorry.
Yeah. There was another one that didn't come up in the game, but I thought was really cool. It was another old one where it was like it's +0 and then +*, where star is equal to the number of cards you discard.
Oh, cool. So
you could use that as a finisher if you needed to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is like, there are so many weird effects like that just pump your toughness.
Yeah. And that's another thing that's like, this commander is not like, it reminds me of Arcades a little bit. Like, it's probably like some of the same cards, except for Arcades also lets your defenders attack too. So I think it's a little bit different strategy. But it's different. But you do get to use these kind of obscure cards that, like, I don't care about giving my creature 7 defense. Like, when is that ever going to be relevant in a game of Commander? But it turns out it's a combat trick.
Yeah, and to that point, something I had considered too when building initially, I was like, I've got to get all the walls, get all those defenders.
Nice.
But then I was like, okay, but how do I swing with that?
Right.
I didn't find until after building it and we had played that there was a card, it's 2 and a white, called Rolling Stones, and it just says walls you have can attack, as though they didn't have defender.
So that would be your secret commander, I guess.
In that deck. Yeah, an enchantment.
And if you went outside of mono white, there are definitely those effects. There's a couple of them in green too. I guess we'll put them up in editing, but there are ways to build that wall deck for sure.
I was
whoops.
Come on. We almost made it through the episode without. Anyway.
Not a sponsor.
I selfishly was hoping that you would get Mavinda during the game, so you could get the pay 0, cast a spell from your graveyard, and then double up on the
nice. That's
Voltron.
That's the combo. That's really where it goes. Do you have to exile the spell with Movenda?
You do,
but you do get that one time where you're giving your 14.
Yeah. So ideally, it would be like an Aegis of the Heavens. You cast that on your commander. You have a Movinda out. You pay the 0, and then recast it for 2 more mana, and then now it's plus 14.
Yep.
And then, like, that makes it easier to have the Alpha Strike. In
for sure. Yeah, if you've already hit that opponent one time, I guess you're still 1 damage short. So you'd have to figure out that 1 damage, but you're right there. Yeah.
And then you sneeze. And they die.
Yeah. The other thing that I didn't get to experience was the initiative. I actually still haven't done that at all. There it is.
Initiative. I'm so glad you said that, because that is my biggest, I guess, gripe with this commander design. But okay. I'll let you.
That was really it. I wish, it seems so powerful to double, and I know that you have some cards in there, but I didn't play them. I don't know if there are not enough cards with you gain the initiative, or if it was just the games that we played, I didn't have it. But I mean, you've played this deck a few times too.
Yes, I have a few outside of this experience, because I had said it was a personal deck of mine that I'd built. There are 4 cards that grant the initiative in the deck. I could include 1 or 2 more, but then you run into the fact where it's literally just a vanilla body that gives you the initiative. And at that point, I'd rather run another stacks piece or something that helps me get to whatever the card is that's better than that can give the initiative.
Sure.
So there were a couple of cool ones. The ones that were artifacts are one of the only rule breaks I had for the Stony Silence build around, where they did require an activated ability. Yep. It was like Dungeon Pact, you pay 2, tap, and then you take the initiative, you gain 2 life, you draw a card and create a treasure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so that's
which
repeatable.
Is cool.
Yeah.
No, but you sacrifice.
Oh, you have to sacrifice it. Okay. But it still gets you
the initiative. And then that's what I really like about the initiative, and it's a shame that we weren't able to get to experience it in our games, because it's unlike the venturing to the dungeon mechanic. Everybody gets to engage with it. It becomes the Dungeon Monarch.
Yeah.
Dunmark.
Yeah.
Dunark. Yeah, that's what it was.
That reminds me of Warcraft 3, building's done.
Loktar Ogar. Blood and thunder. But some of the room abilities for Undercity, that's what happens. The payoff for taking the initiative would be cool. They are the first one is search your library for a basic land card and reveal it. That's just ramp. Nice. It's helpful in my colors, but I don't care about the room so much. It's more so that this commander, I get partially why it didn't have the initiative, because it would be just a 3-cost 8/8 at that point. But I just wish that it was a little bit more accessible. Because it's a fun mechanic.
When are we ever going to see more initiative cards printed?
I mean, when are we ever going to go back to Dungeons and Dragons for Magic cards?
Yeah, I mean, this is the second time. This is
I think it'll be a long time.
I mean, it's the second time in only a few months, right? Or I guess almost a year. Probably.
A year, yeah.
It's about a year. So maybe next year, or maybe it'll be a while, because we've already done it a couple times. I mean, it's nice that they have both IPs, so they could probably do it anytime they want, right? And I know sometimes some players get they don't appreciate when stuff is not Magic the Gathering. It's not within the planes.
It's not everybody's cup of tea.
But for me, it's the Magic adjacent. It's close enough to it, and it's owned by the same company. It's it seems like a very good fit, and it doesn't really break immersion for me. I don't know. It seems right in line for me personally.
To each their own. For me, I don't have a problem with D&D, but I'm less excited about the Warhammer.
Yeah.
The Space Marine type thing.
Right. That's a little bit removed for me too. I get that.
But then you get the people who have been playing this for years that reference the original Urza's Block, where they're the way that they beat the big bad, which I think was Yawgmoth, was they got 7 of the most powerful planeswalkers together, got into Titan suits.
Yeah, it was 9, right?
Oh,
9 Titans. Yeah.
Fact check us, Vorthos.
Yeah. I only know that because I got a Windgrave stack.
Okay, yeah.
So I did a little bit of
self-plug. Check out the link on Moxfield. But yeah, to your point, I hope they come back. I don't know how. I think it's referred to online. I've seen it named a parasitic mechanic, where it's like something that is used to refer to a mechanic that was built as kind of like a gimmick, and it's never going to get support again. I don't hope that that's the case for this, but
I mean, like, when are we going to get Fortell again?
They printed new Fortell cards in the pre-con for this, so
there is space to do it, and it's going to be not in standard sets, right? It's going to be in some of these premium products or commander products.
Hey, they brought party back, so anything can happen.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long. Yeah, that's so true.
I'm just hoping that they like hear what we're saying and just decide to take the initiative and print more initiative. Anyway, I should have just let that sink in silence a little bit more. I think
that could be it. Oh, but we've got to do our commander reveals.
We got to tell you about the commanders.
All right, so we'll have to edit that a little bit.
No, we won't.
Okay, no, we're fine. We're just going to keep rolling. So next week we're building more commanders.
Oh yeah, that's a show. We build commander decks.
Oh yeah, I forgot we were here for a second.
Nice.
So this is a slightly new format. So I went first, but it was your commander. So I'll read your commander for next time.
Yeah, just let me know what you're gonna build for me to play.
Well, we are deep, and so it starts and ends the same way. Okay, continuity, I guess. Well, there is Double Masters 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
2x2, I guess. Okay. Anyway, spoilers happening right now. So we're hype about all of the old commanders that might be given a new life, and with all the cards that have been printed since those commanders came out many years ago, and they're reprints, so maybe they're more accessible. So we're going to go back in time a little bit, build some 2x2 commanders for everyone out there. And I couldn't help myself. I saw a Reanimator commander, and I went straight for Carador, Ghost Chieftain.
Oh, the bait and switch. I thought you were going Atla.
So Carador, Ghost Chieftain is 5, a white, a black, and a green, so Abzan, for a legendary creature, Centaur Spirit. This spell costs 1 generic mana less to cast for each creature in your graveyard, and during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard. So 3/4.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Carador's a classic. Oh man,
never played him. Never played against him either.
Yeah, I haven't either. I've theory crafted a lot, because I do that a lot. But it just seems like you just want that creature heavy deck where you're casting. It's like Muldrotha for creatures, right?
Gross.
Yeah, seems cool. And for the highlight card, I wanted to highlight the Secret Commander.
I'm gonna whisper it again. Secret Commander.
We're going with Old Stick Fingers here, ladies and gentlemen.
Excuse me?
Old Stick Fingers, X black green for a legendary creature horror. When you cast this spell, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X creature cards. Put all creature cards revealed this way into your graveyard, then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Old Stick Fingers' power and toughness are each equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard.
Okay.
It's just fuel, baby. It's just like, how much mana can you dump into Old Stick Fingers to fill your graveyard, to get Carador out, and then start casting those creatures from the graveyard?
For being old, that trick will never get old, and something about sticks.
Be sure to stick with at least one creature in your graveyard, otherwise Stick Fingers just dies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Oh, so I shouldn't exile your graveyard, is what you're saying. Cool. Or you shouldn't exile mine.
Right.
Gosh, this role reversal.
Yep, gets confusing.
Cleverly working.
Are you keeping up?
I'm not, but you should be.
Okay, I'm listening.
When you hear what this commander is going to be. I decided to go for, a new card to me. My understanding is this was originally printed in Gatecrash.
Cool.
Either Gatecrash or Dragon's Maze.
Oh,
that
wow.
same block.
Yep.
Rurik Thar, the Unbowed, 4 red and green, legendary creature, Ogre Warrior. You just can't keep me away from not Golgari, Gruul.
Gruul, baby.
Vigilance and Reach. Rurik Thar, the Unbowed, attacks each combat of Fable. You don't even need to goad it. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Rurik Thar deals 6 damage to that player. Rurik Thar is a 6/6.
Oh, yeah. I've played against Rurik Thar.
Have you?
Yeah, but not like Carador Rurik Thar. These are like creature, so I feel like it's going to be a little bit level playing field.
Oh, good. Yeah, how many non-creatures are you going to put in a Carador?
0 now.
Okay, wait a second.
No, I'll put some. Yeah,
All right.
I mean...
Well, even if you go for 0 non-creatures, I'm still going to include the showcase card, so
right.
I can die in style when I cast non-creatures. Fiery Emancipation for 3 red enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to the permanent or player instead. So if you do decide to cast a non-creature spell, I would like to do 18 damage to you.
Yeah, that is only basically 2 spells. Basically 2 non-creature spells, right? That's 36. I mean, don't shock in any of your lands.
Is there a way to give him an infect?
Oh, woof. Does Rurik Thar deal the 6 damage?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, like grafted exoskeleton, right? Unbelievable.
I mean, I'm not going to end on an infect, but that would be terrible.